but I really meant in the city. How many of y'all been out there in the city and where y'all been at and what y'all been up to? This segment right here today is, I know I've done a lot of shows, and the shows that I've done shows on, we talking sports, we talking politics, we talking about corrupt politicians, we talking about owners that are the $1 Million Kiss. We've been talking about a lot here on the Vague Ringtone YouTube channel. And today, I mean, pretty much y'all don't really know who I am, but I do want to tell you, if you click subscribe and hit like and share, you have an opportunity to win an iPhone 17 for the next 50. The next 50 people are entered into a contest to win an iPhone 17. I know everybody wants that iPhone 17. So go ahead and click subscribe right now and let's get it poppin'. So check it out. I know a lot of y'all always wanted to know, really, what was it like growing up in Las Vegas? So you could ask that question to 10 people, and 10 people gonna have different answers of what they feel like. Not really what they feel like, but some people always kind of tell you what they feel and not what they really mean, if you understand what I mean. So some people will tell you what they thought it should be like or what they wanted it to be like versus them just telling you really what happened and what it was. I'm gonna take y'all back in Las Vegas, some of the things that took place. I remember growing up, you know, late 70s, and you know, they had the casinos in the downtown and, you know, the Strip. But like in 71, which I was young at the time, so I really don't know, but my dad, they know about, you know, you couldn't go out on the Strip, you couldn't be caught out there. They just kind of loosened up in like 74, 75. I think during the time of Malcolm X being murdered, the world kind of was shook up, so people just kind of, you know, and yeah, and excuse me, today I got my Raider Lokes on, my Raider gear. Excuse me on that, but don't excuse me because it's all real. You know, Raiders, when they leave Vegas, that's when I won't be a fan. I'll be only the fan of the team that comes here, just so y'all know. But let's get back to what we into about growing up here in Las Vegas. And if you know anything about Las Vegas, there's so many names of people that I can name that were big time names back in the 70s, the 80s, and so forth, and the things that took place. Now, I'm gonna share some with y'all. Here, there's a middle school now, but it was back then it was called a junior high school, and it was called Jim Bridger. It's still called Jim Bridger. Jim Bridger, the Falcons. I went to Jim Bridger. That's the home school for my area that I grew up in. And anybody that know about Jim Bridger, you know everything that go along with that neighborhood. So I'm gonna just give y'all a little insight. We had parties, and the parties was like, I mean, you pay 50 cents to go into the dance. We go Friday nights or Saturdays, depending on what days that they had the event on. And then they had this group. I got to give Adrian Mitchell a shout out because Adrian was the first one who started doing the shows over at Jim Bridger. He was doing the dances. That's what he was doing. He was doing the dances. The dances was great and everything. And I hope y'all enjoying this music in the background that I produced that's playing right now. I hope y'all enjoying that. But Adrian was charging 50 cents. He had a couple other people that he would be around, and we would go to the dances. And one of the things I remember, Karen Moore. Karen Moore was like the youngest girl that would be in the dance, and I was like the youngest boy that would be in the dance. And I remember back, they would like make us dance at the end, like at the last dance when they would have like the slow song. They would all make us, everybody would want me and Karen to dance. And so, you know, I didn't know how to dance, but everybody wanted it, so it was just something that happened. So shout out to Karen Moore. That was way back in the days. We never dated or anything like that. That was just a club type thing, you know what I mean? Hold on one second, y'all. We got a little malfunction in my music here. And I got to have the music. Y'all know how it is with the music. You got to keep the music popping. So Jim Bridger was cracking, and some dude named George Lester, which ran the group called Hurt 'em Bad. Hurt 'em Bad also did We're Playing Basketball. They also did Hut 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 Monday Night Football. They did that for the NFL, and they did the basketball for the NBA, George Lester, first in Vegas to really make it global with his art, his talent, and his rap. But he also used to do shows. And I remember him coming to Jim Bridger, and he would come to Jim Bridger, and it would be on the radio. You would hear, heard 'em bad at Jim Bridger Friday night. Heard 'em, and everybody, you know, it's in our neighborhood, so shucks, we could walk there, skateboard there, ride our bike there, no matter what, we could get there, you know. At the time, we wasn't driving no way, we were still in middle school. But Heard 'em Bad was coming, and Heard 'em Bad, like, you know, they had this energy. And there was people that was from Vegas that was part of Heard 'em Bad that we knew, guys like Kilroy, Skeeter. And Skeeter lived on our street. And I remember Skeeter was telling us about the Monday Night Football. And he was telling us about Monday Night Football. And I know Skeeter wasn't a football player. But he didn't tell us that the song was coming out. He just kept saying Monday Night Football. So when the song came out, we was all like, you know, all up on it and everything. And Skeeter came from one of them families that was like one of them bad families, you know, name is always out there. If anybody know the Mingos were, you know, here in Vegas. They was on the west side and they was in Northtown, and Skeeter was part of those Mingos. And so that kind of tell you, you know, every neighborhood, every city, every state got that name family that the badasses, if they ain't badasses, they show acting like it. So, I mean, they were, you know, of course they still here today, and you know, it wasn't that bad, but, you know, growing up, we all thought, you know, it was, you know, some wild stuff, some things that we never really experienced or that we seen. You know, the Mingos were, they were something to deal with. I'm glad I was cool with all of them, and turned out to be, years later, we found out that we were family, even though we had been living a house away from each other. Been into it like the Hatfields and McCoys, turned out to be that they was our family. So yeah, the Mingos. And also, Heard 'em Bad had, you know, the attention of all of the people that like music, that like good music. They had the attention of everybody. And they went from Jim Bridger, they went to a place called City View Park. City View Park was a park that everybody would go up to and just kind of hang out. And there was a truck stop right down the street. I remember we would go down there and meet girls at the truck stop, you know, and they would wait for their parents or whoever would come and pick them up, and we would be hanging out with them. So we would just run over there because it was in our neighborhood. It was like, you know, right over the hill. And we had like so many activities of everybody, you know, grouping up, gathering up. And then, you know, it advanced and we went to Lorenzi Park. Lorenzi Park is on the west side. And everybody was going to Lorenzi Park. I remember guys would come up and have their cars out there. And I know other states and other neighborhoods had this, but in Vegas, this is how we was doing it. They had the cars, and you would have fewer people washing their cars. You had like the chain of cars. You had people with their Corvettes. You had like just different kind of people. You had all the beautiful girls from all the neighborhoods, and it was like a place that everybody just go and hang out on Sundays, and we would have a great time. There was nothing else to do. Those were some of the things that people remember, and they loved that Lorenzi Park. We would go up there and just, you know, have a lot of fun. We had the Coliseum skating. If anybody knew about this, you know what I'm saying, y'all tap in and, you know, say some things about this, you know, let the people know. The Coliseum was, that was like a North Las Vegas thing. Even though you had some people from the west side to come, that was more like a North Las Vegas thing, and that thing used to be packed, and it was right across the street from the graveyard, so it was always something crazy about it, you know what I mean? And even when you got there, it was kind of spooky, and you would get up off in there, and, you know, you would kind of see like just darkness, and once you're in there, it's dark inside. You know, the lights that they had wasn't really like no real great lighting. And we're gonna take a small little break right here, and we'll come right back to y'all about that lighting inside of the Coliseum. Yo! All right, we came right back to you with the lighting inside of the Coliseum, that lighting inside the Coliseum. was real shaky and dim. You never know when somebody was, looking at you strange. And of course, because it was in North Las Vegas, not to put nothing real bad on North Las Vegas, but it is what it was. Major fight is gonna happen. A crowd of people gonna be chasing one person, and that's gonna end the night at the Coliseum. We also had Playland skating ring. We also had a skating ring out there on Rancho, and we would go skating all the time. We had 3 different skating rings to go to. We also had this movie theater that was that movie theater was on Fremont. It was called Cinemas 1, 2, 3, and there was 3 theaters in there, and all the theaters pretty much had good movies. We would go in there and spend all evening in there on Saturdays after the football games, and of course, it was kind of close to like some of the neighborhoods. The times that we went to football games, track meets, basketball games, before we were even 18, before we were even 21, you could only gamble when you get 21 in the casinos, and we was gambling at 17, 18, gambling, sitting at the slot machines, playing the slot machines. And at the time, there was no question, nobody was asking for no ID or any of that type of stuff. I remember vaguely, somebody won some money and they couldn't cash in their chips because they didn't have a ID that showed that they were 21 years old. And it was somebody that I knew. I remember a little bit about it, but shoot a lag. We would lag, throw the money up against the wall, and we would be betting $1 or $2 and $5 or whatever it may be, but we would lag. It's nothing, double up, 50, 47 automatic, and turn, 11 and under double. We had our own brick cell phones and things like that. I remember going into the Sahara Hotel. You could pull up right up the side of the Sahara Hotel, and when you pull up on the side, it was like a door. You could just go right in. The tables, and I would walk around the tables, and I would walk around the tables, and my car would be out there parked illegal, and I would be sitting there like, which one of these tables hidden? Which one of these tables hidden? And the times I lost, but I won way more times than I lost. And at that time, I wasn't even 21 at that time. At that time, I was 20 years old when that was taking place, 19 and 20. I remember living out behind the Gold Coast. I had a lot of stuff that was going on, and we may not acknowledge this city, for what it really is. And they look at, money and stuff like that. Those casinos have made so many people homeless. Those casinos have broke so many families. Those casinos have done so many. I tell them about doubling down at the casino, and they know nothing about that, but they convincing them that they could win. Once you get hooked on it, I remember Old Soul told me, only thing you could do is win. And I didn't understand that. Because if you win, you're going to always think you can win. You're going to always keep going back, and you're going to think that you could just drop it in there. And there's people that I've known, even me and my homeboy was together. My homeboy Wally, Trustworthy Janitorial. Y'all might know a little bit about that if y'all anywhere in the city of Vegas or Chicago or someplace like that, New Jersey, where he has his company at, Trustworthy Janitorial. And every place I was hitting royal flushes or 4 aces with the kicker. So by the end of the night, I got $13,000 out of one, and I was just so hooked. Before I could even get home, I was stopping at the 7-Eleven gambling again. And of course, I lost almost all of that. I had a bill that was due for $800, and I remember just hanging on to that $800 after Louis winning. But this is telling you about the things that took place here in Vegas. I remember growing up here in the city. At 16, you can get a job, and you could be a busboy. You're getting tips every night. You're getting $50, $60 in tips a night. At 16 years old, me and my homeboy, Miss Jeff Burst, we went to school together, and we worked out at Caesar's Palace. We was, going through the picket line. And me and Jeff, You know, we were making like at that time, like maybe $125 just like on serving drinks. So Las Vegas is a place that was all about the money. And I know why a lot of rappers got, you know, we just never really put it out there like that. No cameras, no microphone, no action. Cats just out here getting it. Prison, and still maintain their dignity, and not only that, but their financial status is still in a great position. We had people that grew up right here in Vegas that played in the NBA, played in the Final Four. You look up the Final Four and tell me who is the Final Four leading three-point maker in the Final Four. It should say Freddie Banks. And they may not put, you know, the first person to hit a 4-point bucket in the NBA, but that's Sutton Sam Smith right out here out of Las Vegas. Tennessee Volunteers, you got C.J. Watson that owns the assist record. Hey, there's so many people from Vegas that have done some great things without the spotlight. There's so many people that have done great things just by doing it because they loved it. Like my pops, you know, everybody called him Speedball. When I post a picture of him, everybody said that's a legend. Everybody. Thousands of people talk about how he's a legend. In my household, he was my pops. Legend, godfather, and everything, you know, provider. When you're growing up with your parent and growing up without a parent, growing up without your father, I would say, it's definitely a difference, and people can see the difference. Some people do good and some people don't, but you see the difference in the discipline and the activity. But listen, I'm gonna come back to y'all again, and I'm gonna give y'all more about what it was like growing up right here in Las Vegas. I like to bring my guests on and let them tell y'all what it was like about here in Las Vegas, how it was, and the activity. Lorenzi Park, Doolittle, Dula, Cinemas 1, 2, 3, Playland Skating Ring, City View Park, Lorenzi Park. You know, we could go on and on and on, you know, and just talk about all of the great activities that took place. Late 80s, by then, the drugs had hit the city like they did in every other place. Here in Vegas, it was a little different because we was already, you know, getting money, you know, hustling, gambling, and things like that. The drug came in and just burned up some avenues and took a lot of great people out that probably could have made change in life but got strung out on drugs, which is not the greatest thing in the world. But what happens, happens. If it's like that, it's like that. But I just want to say, a lot of great people got strung out. And I also got to mention before I close all the way out, we would go through the neighborhoods and play basketball, chase the women through all of the neighborhoods, and Wrigley Estates, Delmonico, Cary Arms, Herbert Gerson, PB, Piru, West Coast, Bonanza Village, Northtown. That was just pretty much where we was at. We had, you know, the East Side and Northtown, but pretty much everybody was just right there in Northtown. And that's like off of Donna Street, Civic Center, Evans, Gowan, Pecos, streets like that. And I know everybody that's probably watching this now that's from Vegas, y'all can relate to this and y'all feel, you know, what I'm saying. Just driving down Cheyenne, you know, busting a left on Civic Center, you're going up to Evans, passing my block, you know what I mean? So just remember one thing, Las Vegas ain't all about slot machines and casinos. it's really been about the hustle. It's really been about that hustle and that party life and all of that. It's been really happening. But what I would really like for y'all to do, you have an opportunity to win an iPhone 17. Click subscribe, hit like and share. The next 50 people are being entered into a drawing to win iPhone 17. Let's get with it. And if y'all remember Disco 123 and KVOV back in the days, y'all hit the like button. And we're going to get back to y'all. Well, I'm going to get back to y'all. I expect to have one of my guys from Rancho High School on tonight around 7 p.m. It was fun kicking it with y'all today. Hoping that everybody out there really enjoy their weekend that's coming up, because there is a weekend that's coming up because today is Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. Teach your kids how to go out there in a professional manner and make some things happen and get paid. And always remember one thing. A fool only tries to fool someone that's wise. Remember, a fool tries to fool somebody wise. So a wise person already knows who the fool is. So don't fool yourself. And don't pay attention to what people say about you. You know who you are. Check it out. Get back with y'all later. I'm out.